This challenge takes 2.5 years to explain the entire history of modern warfare, starting from the First World War in 1914 to the current Russia-Ukraine war, to take you through the brutality of war from beginning to end. Today we will discuss the First World War. This war involved over 75 million participants. The casualties reached as high as 38 million. The first global war in human history. How did it actually erupt? And what was the final outcome? In fact, before the outbreak of World War I, between the countries of Europe, there have always been territorial disputes. After the Franco-Prussian War ended in 1871, there have been ongoing conflicts between Germany and France. With the rapid development of German industry and military, a powerful Germany, its ambitions for external expansion were also rapidly growing, leading to conflicts with other European powers over issues of colonies and strategic resources, resulting in inevitable conflicts. This led to the formation of conflicts between Britain and Germany, as well as between Russia and Germany. Meanwhile, in the southern region of Europe, the Balkans, the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Tsarist Russia also had territorial sovereignty disputes. Conflicts and disagreements arose. The atmosphere was charged with tension on both sides. Neither side would yield to the other. Amidst the emergence of various conflicts, European countries began to form alliances to protect their own interests and security. They started to pull each other into factions. Thus, two major military alliances were formed. They were the alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, and the alliance of Britain, France, and Russia. These countries were all waiting for the right moment to expand their territories. On June 28, 1914, which coincided with Serbia's national holiday, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was attending a memorial event in Serbia. While inspecting in Sarajevo, he was shot dead on the spot by a Serbian youth. This is the shocking Sarajevo event that startled the world. The Balkan households. Subsequently, the Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on Serbia. In the following weeks, Britain, France, Germany, and Russia also began to follow the treaties and sequentially got involved in the war. Thus, World War I officially broke out. On August 1st, Germany began mobilizing its troops to declare war on Russia. On August 2nd, Germany declared war on France. On August 4th, Germany began its invasion of the small West European country of Belgium. Following this, Britain declared war on Germany. After facing declarations of war from multiple countries, the German High Command also began to devise plans for invading other countries. In the choice between France and Russia, they ultimately chose to invade France first, and then deal with Russia in the east, in order to take down the tough nut that is France. On August 4, 1914, the German army implemented the Schlieffen Plan, mobilizing 50,000 troops. The first battle was fought in the city of Liège, Belgium. If they could capture this city, Germany could advance deep into enemy territory. They could occupy all of Belgium. This would allow for a rapid advance into northeastern France. After the outbreak of the war, faced with the powerful invasion of the German army, the Belgian army did not surrender to Germany. The Belgian army adopted defensive measures, utilizing the advantages of the complex terrain. They began various guerrilla tactics to fiercely resist the German forces. Each advance resulted in heavy losses for the Germans. The Austro-Hungarian Empire's offensive against Serbia was also progressing slowly. The Serbian army fought valiantly, inflicting heavy casualties on the Austro-Hungarian forces. Within just half a month, the death toll for the Austro-Hungarian Empire reached 40,000. And during the Battle of Liège in Belgium, the Belgian army's stubborn resistance caused the Germans to remain stalled for several days. Only with the continuous reinforcement of the artillery units did the German army begin to use giant siege guns to launch a bombardment on the defenses of Liège. Under the powerful firepower of the Germans, the positions in the Liège fortress were successively destroyed, as the defenses were shattered by the Germans. On August 16, the German vanguard forces with thundering momentum captured Liège. Due to the fall of Liège, the Belgian army had lost all strongholds to defend. Under the strong offensive of the Germans, on August 20, all of Belgium had completely fallen into German hands. After occupying Belgium, the Germans began to deploy 7 army groups totaling 2 million men to launch attacks in multiple directions towards France. Alexander von Kluck's First Army advanced to the frozen Somme River in just a few days, pushing towards the capital of France, Paris, witnessing the rapid expansion of the German army in order to relieve pressure on the Anglo-French allies. On August 17, 1914, the Russian Empire mobilized a total of 400,000 troops and began to split into 2 army groups. They simultaneously launched an attack on German East Prussia. This marked the outbreak of the Battle of Tannenberg. At this time, the German defenders in East Prussia numbered only 170,000. Although the Russian army had a numerical advantage, they lacked coordination on the battlefield. They fought independently. Additionally, the Germans had easily intercepted and deciphered Russian telegrams, giving them a clear understanding of the Russian Empire's battle plans and marching routes. This resulted in numerous flaws in the Russian army's combat operations. In just 15 days of fighting, the German army annihilated 120,000 troops. More than 140,000 Russian soldiers became prisoners of war. On September 2, the Russian army suffered a complete defeat. The remaining forces retreated entirely from the German border. On September 2, France, in order to reinforce the advancing German troops at the Marne River, the German First and Second Armies abandoned their attack on the French capital, Paris. They engaged the Anglo-French forces along the banks of the Marne River, resulting in an unprecedented large-scale battle, known as the Battle of the Marne. Over 5 million troops were committed by both sides in this battle. The casualty count reached as high as 500,000. The high command of the Anglo-French forces began issuing orders that soldiers and officers were not to retreat even one step. Those who disobeyed the orders would be executed on the spot. Countless shells rained down on the banks of the Marne River, as soldiers from both sides fought fiercely on this ground. After a week of fighting, the Anglo-French forces finally combined their efforts to defeat the German army, shattering the myth of German invincibility. The German army suffered heavy losses, forcing them to retreat nearly 50 kilometers. From then on, the Western Front began to shift from maneuver warfare, evolved into trench warfare. On September 18, the Anglo-French forces launched another offensive against the German army. However, the German army had already established defensive fortifications. They fiercely resisted the Anglo-French forces. After several days of intense fighting, the German army ultimately pushed back the Anglo-French forces. In order to turn the situation around, the Anglo-French forces began to mobilize 200,000 troops to attack Germany's colonies in Africa. Henceforth, the flames of war swept across the entire continent of Africa. The continuous expansion of the war prompted Japan, far away in the Pacific, to also declare war on Germany. Seizing this opportunity, they captured the previously German-occupied port of Qingdao. In the following months, Japan also successively occupied the Marshall Islands and the Caroline Islands. On April 22, 1915, the Anglo-French forces launched several attacks on the Western Front against the German army, attempting to drive the Germans out of French territory. However, they encountered fierce resistance from the German army. In order to achieve victory in the war, the German army in the Ypres region used poison gas bombs to attack the French positions, resulting in heavy casualties for the French forces. From then on, Germany initiated the use of chemical weapons. According to statistics, 15,000 people died in this incident. After soldiers inhaled the gas, their lungs were burned, their skin began to rot, and they lay on the ground in excruciating pain. In just a short span of 20 minutes, the positions fell into a deathly silence. Even the birds in the sky fell from the air. Germany's insane use of poison gas bombs soon provoked strong condemnation from countries around the world. In retaliation against the German army, the Allied forces soon began using poison gas bombs as well, to launch surprise attacks on the German troops. From then on, both sides became embroiled in a prolonged gas warfare. In May, the German army began to shift the focus of operations to the Eastern Front, attempting to defeat the weaker Tsarist Russia first, in order to break the deadlock of fighting on both the Eastern and Western fronts. Subsequently, the German and Austrian forces launched the Gorlice-Tarnow offensive against the Russian army. Germany and Austria-Hungary, with superior forces, quickly broke through the Russian defenses. Due to the corruption and incompetence of the Tsarist leadership, the command of operations lacked any logic. In just 52 days, the Austro-German alliance annihilated nearly 400,000 Tsarist troops. They also pushed them back by 130 kilometers. Although the Austro-German alliance achieved significant victories, their ally, Italy, after receiving territorial compensation from Britain and France, decided to switch sides and join the British and French camp, and began to declare war on Germany and Austria-Hungary. In September, Germany and Austria-Hungary united, and Bulgaria mobilized 700,000 troops. The army began to split into two paths. They jointly attacked Serbia. Faced with the dual military onslaught, Serbia was completely occupied in less than a month by the German-Austrian alliance. By the end of 1915, the two major blocs had experienced 2 years of relentless fighting. Both sides were utterly exhausted. The German-Austrian alliance had gained the upper hand in fighting against Russia, but had failed to escape the dilemma of fighting on two fronts. Thus, the German High Command decided to once again shift the strategic focus of their offensive to the Western Front. On February 21, 1916, the German army concentrated a large force to launch an attack on the French stronghold of Verdun. Verdun is the gateway to eastern France. If Verdun fell, then Paris would be directly exposed to the threat of the German army. In order to defend this important town, the French High Command issued strict military orders. All officers and soldiers must live or die with Verdun. Subsequently, the German Fifth Army's artillery group unleashed a bombardment of 150,000 rounds per hour on Verdun. This was accompanied by continuous air attacks on the French forces. A large number of French positions were destroyed, and French soldiers began to fall in droves. After the bombardment ended, the German army used flamethrowers to eliminate the remaining French forces on the front lines. Under the relentless assault of the German army, the French forces suffered heavy losses. On February 27, Pétain began to step up, taking command of the French forces at Verdun. After Pétain took office, he quickly reinforced the defensive positions on the front lines. He also dispatched a large number of troops to reinforce the front lines. Thanks to Pétain's careful planning, the French successfully withstood the fierce German offensive. Meanwhile, France and Germany, constantly sending reinforcements to the front lines. The massive forces of the two camps engaged in fierce battles on the battlefield. In this brutal war, both sides brought out the most advanced weaponry, from poison gas bombs to flamethrowers, from airplanes to massive artillery. A variety of deadly weapons took turns on the battlefield, causing a mountain of corpses on the battlefield. Wounded soldiers and officers were continuously carried away from the front lines. A total of 2.4 million troops were committed by both countries in this battle. The casualty figures even reached 1 million. The severity of the conflict is simply unimaginable. Soldiers from both armies continuously moved through the ruins. They also had to face the constant rain of shells. Often, a single round of shelling would last for several days. Smoke filled the entire battlefield. After a round of shelling and charge, all that remains is a ground covered in corpses and ruins. Every day, thousands of soldiers die in this battle. After enduring 10 months of fighting, the French army paid the price of 520,000 casualties. To win the victory in the war, the German army also suffered 460,000 casualties. This battle not only became a turning point in World War I, but also stifled the German offensive, leading to their complete loss of initiative on the Western Front. On June 24 of that same year, while the fierce fighting at Verdun was ongoing, the Anglo-French forces aimed to break the German encirclement, and to alleviate the pressure of the German attacks in the Verdun area. The Anglo-French forces began to gather 620,000 troops to launch a surprise attack on the Germans in the Somme region. Subsequently, the Germans urgently dispatched 650,000 troops and engaged in fierce battles with the Anglo-French forces. Both sides are full of hostility. Neither side yields to the other. Britain began using aircraft to support ground operations. The French army also deployed tanks for the first time in combat. This battle lasted a total of 5 months. The total number of soldiers involved reached over 3 million. The casualties amounted to as many as 1.3 million. It became the largest battle of World War I. Ultimately, the Anglo-French coalition used their numerical advantage. They successfully reclaimed large areas of lost territory. In July of the same year, to coordinate with the Anglo-French allies' operations on the Western Front, the Russian army to the east launched the Brusilov offensive. The Russian army had a total strength of 630,000 in this battle. This resulted in 1.1 million casualties for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In the Unger Battle of Asia, 400,000 were captured. Meanwhile, the German army also lost 350,000 men. Hungary. This battle is referred to as Russia's largest military victory in World War I. On April 6, 1917, the United States, far across the ocean, using the excuse of the German submarine sinking the Housatonic, they began to declare war on Germany and Austria. America's sudden entry rapidly strengthened the military power of the Allies. On August 14, the Beiyang government of China also responded to the American invitation, declared war on the German-Austrian alliance, but did not send troops to Europe. Instead, they dispatched 150,000 workers to go to Europe for construction. On November 7, 1917, the Bolshevik Party led by Lenin erupted in the October Revolution in Russia, established the Soviet regime by the 16th, thoroughly overthrew the Tsarist regime. The long-term warfare between Russia and Germany caused widespread war fatigue among the Russian people. In March 1918, Soviet Russia signed a peace treaty with the German army. Soviet Russia ceded more than 3 million square kilometers of territory. The empire paid $5 billion in war reparations, officially began to withdraw from World War I. On July 15, 1918, the United States, Britain, and France assembled 1.5 million troops. They launched the Second Battle of the Marne. Under the strong firepower of the Allies, the German army was unable to retaliate. They suffered continuous defeats and fell back. By August, the Allies launched a large-scale counteroffensive. The German frontline troops began to suffer overwhelming defeats. News of the defeats at the front spread to Germany. Anti-war sentiment grew increasingly strong domestically. A large number of German soldiers began to surrender to the Allies. Seeing the trend was against them, the Allies' Austro-Hungarian Empire, Bulgaria and Turkey also surrendered one after another. In light of this situation, many workers and people in Germany launched an armed uprising. The insurrections quickly occupied the capital, Berlin. Kaiser Wilhelm II was forced to abdicate. He was replaced by the newly established Weimar Republic. On November 11, 1918, Germany officially surrendered to the Allies. Thus, World War II officially comes to an end. Subsequently, Britain, America, and France began to coerce Germany. They signed the unequal Treaty of Versailles. This forced Germany to cede 15% of its territory, and all of its overseas colonies, along with 150 billion marks in war reparations. This plunged Germany into a prolonged economic crisis. This also laid the groundwork for Germany's later initiation of World War II. So, this episode ends here. In the next episode, we will discuss World War II.